In Basics, How Terms and Connector Searching Operates, Part 2, Connectors. Terms in a Boolean search are turned into search statements by using connectors, which indicate relationships between words. These connectors will determine whether all of your search terms or just some of them will be required. And if you are including both words, how far apart can they be, either by word count or grammatical structure? You can also exclude terms from a search. Some search engines recognize words as connectors rather than as search terms or noise words when they are typed in capital letters. The first connector to consider is the OR connector. Use the OR connector to include alternative forms of expression. Since the computer doesn't know that a dog is the same thing as a canine, you need to supply alternative terms connected with the OR. Use OR for synonyms. For example, a case could refer to a car or an auto or an automobile or a motor vehicle. In fact, there were a total of 37 cases in Wyoming in 1990 that included one or more of these four words. 18 of them, fewer than half, used the word car, 19 used the phrase motor vehicle, and a few more than half, 21, used the word automobile. But only 6 had the word auto, and almost none had all four. You should have used the OR connector. You should also use the OR connector when you want to find discussions that discuss both the presence of something or its absence. For example, a statute can establish an action for the invasion of privacy or present people with a right to privacy. When you run the search, cat or dog, assuming the automatic plurals of Lexis and Westlaw, you will get any document that has either of both of these terms in their singular or plural form. So the Boolean OR is not like the regular English language use of OR to indicate choice. You don't have to choose your favorite. You can have either one or both. Adding terms to your search with the OR connector should increase the number of documents that meet your search criteria. One last thing about the OR connector. In a Westlaw Boolean search, a space between words is read as the OR connector. So if you want to include a phrase in a Westlaw terms and connector search, you'll need to include that phrase in quotation marks. The next connector is the joining connector, usually written as AND or ampersand. This connector requires the search terms on each side of the connector to be in every document retrieved, and the words can be anywhere in the document. Here's our database example. It is the intersection of the two circles, since both words need to be in the documents retrieved. A note about Bloomberg Law here. Bloomberg Law assumes the AND connector between terms if you haven't chosen a different connector. The first variation on the joining connector is the proximity connector. For this, both words need to be in the same document, and in addition, they must be within a certain number of words of each other. On Westlaw, this is written as a slash followed by the maximum number of words that can come between the two terms. Lexis uses W slash and then the number, meaning both terms must be within that number of each other. Bloomberg Law uses N slash number, meaning near that number. Westlaw will accept the Lexis command of W slash, and Bloomberg Law will recognize both the Lexis and Westlaw commands. But again, when you're using a database that you don't use regularly, check the help screens to find out what commands the systems will be able to process and how it will process them. Here's another research tip. Deconstruct phrases and replace them with proximity connectors to get alternative ways the same concept could be expressed. For example, freedom of the press could also be expressed as a press that is free. If you search for free within for press, you'll get both ways of saying that. A variation on the proximity connector is the ordered proximity connector. Both words must be within a certain number of words, as with the proximity connector, but the additional requirement that the first must precede the second. This is written as dog pre-number cat on Lexis or dog plus number cat on Westlaw and dog NP slash number cat on Bloomberg Law. Although I think Westlaw and Lexis understand each other's syntax, and Bloomberg Law will often let you use either Lexis or Westlaw syntax instead of its own. Here's another research tip. This is a great connector when you're looking for people. Unless you know someone's name always appears exactly in the same form, you should join the first and last name with like a pre-to connector. That way you'll get their name with or without middle names, initials, nicknames. You can see from this example all the different ways I've seen Professor Plotter referred to in writing. Searching for him as Zygmunt pre-to Plotter will retrieve all of them. Another type of joining connector is the grammatical connector. Instead of being a certain distance apart, the words need to be in the same grammatical unit, either a sentence or a paragraph. Westlaw writes them as /s or /p, and Bloomberg Law will understand these connectors. Bloomberg Law will also recognize s/ or p/ to mean the same sentence or paragraph. Lexis Advanced allows the use of the same sentence and the same paragraph connectors, but these are not true grammatical connectors. Looking for periods at the end of sentences and paragraph marks at the end of paragraphs, these are a numerical estimate, with same sentence being no more than 25 words apart and same paragraph being 75 words apart. The final connector is the exclusion connector. This connector eliminates documents with designated terms or phrases. Westlaw uses the % or the words but not. Lexis uses the words and not. And Bloomberg just uses the word not. The term or phrase after this connector will not be in any documents retrieved. Now you have to be very judicious in your use of this connector because it can be over-restrictive, eliminating documents you want if they have the forbidden term. At the very least, use it at the end of the sentence to avoid negating the whole sentence. Finally, I want to talk briefly about what happens when you use search terms but no connectors in a Boolean search. Each of the three major vendors treats a string of terms without connectors between them differently in their terms and connectors search mode. On Lexis Advanced, in a terms and connectors search, the string of words seen here are actions which constitute a breach of fiduciary duty would be read as a phrase. On either of the other two systems, if you want it to be read as a phrase, you would need to include it in quotation marks. Lexis Advanced wouldn't have a problem with the quotation marks either, so for safety's sake, you might want to include all the things you actually want to be searched as a phrase in quotation marks. On Bloomberg Law, words that are entered in the search box without connectors between them are presumed to have an AND connector between them. So this search on Bloomberg Law will get the documents in the database search search that have every one of these words in them. And finally, on Westlaw, the space between terms in a terms and connector search is presumed to be the OR connector. So this search on Westlaw will retrieve all documents that have any of these words in this string, with the exception of the noise word of. But that's probably a lot more documents than you want to look at. So it pays to put in the connectors you want between the terms you have chosen to search for so that you get the set of documents that best meet your research needs. This is the end of basic Boolean searching, but fear not, there's another video on advanced Boolean searching that will teach you even more smart searching tricks.